Welcome back to the channel.
Welcome back. It's been ages since we've sat down and had a chat with you like this.
Isn't it?
Well, I've missed it. I've missed you.
Welcome to series 2 of our Conversations with.
Yes, if you've not seen the series before, it's basically us sitting down and having a chat with
Friends.
people that we like. Well, half of them we'd never met before last year. It was our first time getting to know different people. And they're van lifers, they're people who use their motorhomes like us. So there's weekend warriors, full-time van dwellers, and everything in between. It was a really lovely way to meet some new people and to kind of get an understanding of the different ways that we all use our vans.
Right, because we obviously got the vans as a common thing, but we all use them differently.
Absolutely.
In the summer last year, we had Dom and Missy of Those Weirdos come and stay on the drive, and we shot the Conversations with you're about to see there. Now, a lot's changed in their life since then.
Yes, including the weather that we're experiencing right now.
Absolutely. They're now set up in Portugal, and if you're not following them, guys, there's a link down in the description, so go ahead. But do enjoy this one. And if you've got any suggestions for anyone else you'd like to do a Conversations with,
write it in the comments. But please, there are extra points if you put people's names that we haven't already done.
Right.
So if you're not sure, go back and have a look at that playlist.
Yeah, there's a playlist of the first 10 that we did.
Yeah.
So enjoy this one, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to another Conversations with.
This is the first of our new series.
Yes, it is. And this one's slightly different because where we've done the other ones remotely, this one, we have the guests in the van with us.
In person.
So, please welcome Dom and Missy from Those Weirdos.
That's us. That's us.
Hey, guys. The first of our series 2 of the podcast Conversation with. So, welcome. Thanks for coming along.
Okay, first thing. Who lives in a van? Not any van, your van specifically.
We do.
Yeah.
Just you guys.
There's seven of us in the van.
Wow.
So there's me,
Yeah.
Dom, Missy, Rosie, who's 12, and Morph, who's a cat, and Leo, who's another cat, and Hoagie, who's a dog, and Juan, who's also a dog. So 2 cats, 2 dogs, and us.
And you 3. Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of van have you got? It's not big.
No, it's not big, but it's a long wheelbase Sprinter, high top, 2013. So it was big before we built it.
It was big.
It was huge before we moved in.
Now we've got about 2, maybe 3 square foot of floor space left. But it doesn't feel cramped. So.
Oh, that's
No,
good.
we love it.
And how did it all start? So, you've not been living in a van all your life. How did it lead up to guys meeting and living and moving into a van? Just give me a bit of context here.
We're just coming up on 2 years of living in our van.
This week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So prior to that, we were in houses. We lived normal life, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, it's been a long process, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Your van is yellow. Which came first, your van or the theme of the Yellow Submarine on the outside?
A bit of both, because what we did...
No, van came first.
Well, yeah, the van came first, but before the van came, we had like a mood board online. So we collected images of vans that we liked, both inside and outside, and put them in this folder. So there was all different to get ideas. So we didn't want the traditional kind of white van.
No.
And there's not actually a lot of colours of vans around. You don't see a pink van or a blue van very often. So our van was a DHL van.
I did figure that, right.
Hence it was, but it was also a high security DHL van, which was an absolute nightmare when we had to strip it out. But that's another story. So it was yellow. I like the Beatles.
Yes.
So initially we had the idea of let's do the whole submarine theme.
We thought it would look really cool on Instagram, We were going to go for that cross-hatchy metal plating everywhere.
Periscope. And
with those little red wheels just for cupboard handles and so on, and make it really industrial. It would have looked so cool.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been at all comfortable to actually live in. So
then we kind of changed and said, well, let's kind of go with the submarine theme, but let's go Moroccan, more kind of gypsy caravan inside, bright colours, copper.
Lots of different fabrics, lots of
Gorgeous.
soft furnishings, stickers
Yeah.
everywhere.
And that was also partly down to the size that you mentioned earlier. Small space. We thought, lots of colours.
We chose the colours, as well as them having that Moroccan palette kind of vibe. They're also the colours from the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, the picture of it. It's a little bit of orange, a little bit of white, a little bit of red, lots of yellow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell me about your background, Dom.
Yep. So I was Mr. Corporate from my late teens through to early 30s.
Right.
So I worked in retail, and I was the youngest store manager in my company, and then the youngest store manager of the largest store in my company, and I was all focused on career, going up the ladder, had a big house, big car,
Right.
2 weeks holiday every year, all that kind of standard kind of thing that you
Absolutely.
go for when you're growing up and becoming a young man and going forward. And then I guess the short version is got divorced, and that was pretty tough. And I was looking at my life, and I think I had a bit of a crisis at that point, so I started a bit of a radical change. So I sold my house, moved to London, started a completely different life, and then it's been a sort of 20-year journey of change, which has ended up or resulted at the end of that journey or the beginning of the next journey living on a van, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So when did you guys meet? And how did you meet?
So it's 18 years?
It was about 18 years ago,
Yeah.
yeah. Dom was in a band. I worked in retail, but every day I went for lunch at a pub in my town, and one of the barmen of the pub also was the drummer in Dom's band. So there was this one serendipitous day where Dom had dropped the drummer back home and come in and spotted me, and then and told somebody about, I think it was your drummer, wasn't it? He
It
said,
was,
"Oh, you
yeah.
could give her my number," and he did.
Yeah, I made a typical male comment about you to Simon the drummer, and then I said, "Oh, don't say anything, mate," and he went, No, I won't say anything." And then about 3 days later I got an email saying, "Oh, I hear you were interested in me."
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
I bet that's how she came across as well, was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. When you haven't looked back from there.
No.
No.
So for van life, it started in 2018 in the summer, and I'd just come across the hashtag van life on Instagram, and I spent a few hours. I'd never come across it before. I didn't really know that people lived in vans, and then Instagram obviously shows you the absolute best of the best if it's hashtag van life. So you've got gorgeous vans, gorgeous views, people looking really happy, freedom, and I went, oh my gosh, that looks absolutely amazing. I fancy that. Went and told Dom, showed him some of the pictures, and he went, well, actually, I've got travelling in a van on my old age bucket list. So I said, well, why don't we make it a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, and we'll organise, how to get an income when we're on the road, and we'll sell our stuff slowly, and we'll come up. And he went, no, let's just do it now. So then we decided to go on a camping trip, because a camping trip for 2 days, staying in a tent,
It's
would
very
obviously
similar.
tell us
Yeah.
what van life would be like.
Right.
So 2 days of sitting around a campfire later, we thought it was amazing, and like, yeah, we could do around the campfire. Let's get a van. And then a month later, we had a van, didn't we?
We did.
Yep.
So it was pretty impulsive because I'd never driven a van, never been on holiday in a motorhome, never owned a motorhome, nothing like that. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
literally. It wasn't
Shut
quite.
all our eggs in a basket. It was exactly like that.
It was, but we then discussed it as a family because we got other kids as well. So we discussed it as a family and said, let's give it 2 months and we'll watch YouTube and see what it might feel like living in a van vicariously through YouTube. And the more YouTube we watched, we were like, yeah, let's do this. So then we bought the van,
Yeah.
drove the van home, traded in my lovely brand new car that I was in love with, got the car out the way, got the van,
Yeah.
and started building the van
We spent
that week.
Yeah. We spent 8 months building out our van.
So you've built it all out yourselves.
Yeah.
Almost entirely. The only thing we didn't do was
Wow.
fitting the gas, which we weren't confident with,
Sure.
given the safety of that.
Absolutely.
Dom was already good at woodwork and increased his skill, so he did all the woodwork in the van. I learned how to do 12-volt electrics using YouTube and various vlogs and blogs,
Wow.
That
which is
Isn't it?
Yeah.
it's very cool. I was really nervous at first. I was trying to find a video of somebody showing me how to strip the end off of wire with strippers, and there aren't any videos because it's such a simple thing to do. You go click and the wire comes off. But when you've never done it before, that was scary. But yeah, I'm confident with that now.
Have you now made that video so you can show other people?
I'm going to, yeah.
Excellent.
I'm going to do 12-volt electrics for absolute beginners.
Yeah.
This is a pair of crimpers.
Yeah.
This is a wire.
That would be good.
I think so. Well, I would have used it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how long did it take you to build a van?
It took us 8 months to build the van, but we were working at the same time because we both had our own businesses, both self-employed. So we were kind of juggling between, we've got a van, where do we start with that? Running our own businesses, both of us separately, and having our kids, and then also the horrible and really big thing of you're in a house, you've got all this stuff in your house, and you've got to pack that down.
Yep. And we were having our grandson come stay a couple of days a week during that, and I was running a couple of girl guiding units, so it wasn't 8 months of full-on van build. It was like 3 or 4 hours a day, some days of the week.
And we were in a rented house, so we had to give notice. So we were our landlord was great, so we spoke to him and said, look, we're going to go off travelling, we want to give notice. So he said, that's great actually, because I quite fancy selling the house. So he said, how about 6 months? So we then had a date, and on that date we literally would give the keys in and we had to go. Yeah. And it was actually like that.
It was really hard work building the van.
Yeah.
And
packing the house as well.
Well, I was going to say, you've seen the clutter that we've got in our house.
Ours was worse.
Was it? Yeah. And that must have been really hard. I mean, that's one thing I'm dreading if we do.
Well, your house looks fairly organised, and our house was not. It was like if you had a pile of stuff and you put it in the cupboard, and then you put a pile of stuff in front of the cupboard, and then you had some more stuff on the top of it.
See,
give you a clue. It looks organised because we've got guests.
We've spent 2 days tidying up for you guys. Yeah. But I understand that.
Explain this to me, right? Live in a house, you're in your bed, lying down, and you think, duvet's not as nice as it used to be, let's get a new duvet. So the next day you go out to John Lewis, buy yourself a new duvet cover. You've got your old duvet, which you've just admitted is crap. So you think, well, I might need that, so I'll fold it up, put it in the loft. Multiply that by 20 years. So we had 2 lofts. Literally open the hatch and the stuff starts there.
But sometimes it came in handy.
We did have some good stuff in the loft, but it's like, so we've got 6 months at this point to finish the van, clear the house, and get rid of all our stuff that we don't want to keep, pack up the stuff we do want to keep, sell the stuff that we think we can sell, give the rest away, and then throw away the last lot. So the last lot was 5 skips, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That we filmed.
It was crazy stuff.
Okay, maybe you was a little worse than us.
I'll tell you a really good thing that came out doing that process though was that Rosie had to do the same. She was worse hoarder than we were. She kept every little thing, but we told her that anything that she sold, she could keep the money from.
Right.
She made herself £150 selling toys and clothes and books and so on. And she popped it in a little savings account, and when we were on the road she then spent it on ice creams, and she bought herself clothes, French market, she got herself a little dress, and that worked really well.
Fantastic. Good.
When you started building out your van, did you know what layout you wanted, or did that evolve as you went? How well planned was that process?
So we had a kind of rough plan, but we didn't put it in a CAD or anything like that. So you were always quite amused by that, because I did all the woodwork, which is obviously the basic frame of the van. So I split it into bits. So it would be like, okay, so this week or this month or however long I'm going to build the shower and the toilet. So I would just focus on that. So I would make mock-ups, but it was all up here. Yep. So I would be kind of chopping things, going, that doesn't work, this is too small, that's too big.
You never did a drawing?
No.
You never had a map? I had maps and notes and lists and measurements. And he'd go, right, I'm going to build here today. And I'd say, well, would you like to see the measurements for that area? And he went, no. Okay. And it worked out in the end there. It was all right.
I winged it, but I also did it by, when I was working on the toilet, be right, I want to make it as small as I can.
On the toilet.
The area as small as I can. So can I stand up to have a shower? Can I sit down to go to the toilet? And how small can I make it to be able to achieve that, so that there's more room somewhere else? And it was literally every part was, the same. So when we were on the kitchen, it's like, how high does it need to be? How do I need to fit the fridge in? How far do I want it to stick out? And then we'd move on.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from the back, because we've got a double bed for us up top, and 2 single beds, because when we were leaving we had Rosie and Phoenix, so there were four people on the van. So we had to work out how do we fit 4 beds in that are full size. We'd all said if we're going to live on a van, the number one thing we want is the bed has to be just the best bed you've ever slept in your life.
Yeah, we'd seen people who maybe had a nice bed for themselves, and then they put their kids on the thin foam like this. Well, that'll be right. Or they have like a stretchy bit of canvas with some poles, and that sits in the cab. And I was thinking, I can't ask Rosie to sleep in the cab in the chilly with, you know, temporary, while we're over there on a nice bed. So we all got proper mattresses like you'd have in a house.
Fantastic, and why not? Absolutely. If you're full time, if you spend a
Yeah,
third
exactly.
of your life laying on that mattress, right? Why not make it the best one you can get?
Sleep's so important, I guess. When you're in that space, you need to be able to sleep well. So you just it takes out one of the extra stresses that could lead to
And it's more
not
than
having
that.
somewhere to go if you get angry with each other because you're overtired.
Yeah. And it's more than that as well, because it's also, because our van is so small once we've got all the furniture and the people and the pets in, that if you do need some space for each other, Rosie quite often likes to have her own space. We can go to the bed area, so we've all got curtains, so you can go and lie down on the bed and watch telly, or stick your head out the sunroof, while somebody else is in the cab and somebody else is on the bed underneath, and it gives you all little rooms if you need it.
Yep.
Works well.
But as we discussed, it is quite small in there for so many of you living in there. But much of your time is spent outside the van anyway, outside living, as we discussed, in Europe and what have you, isn't it?
Yeah, we're probably what you term fair weather travellers. So we usually sunseek.
Me too.
Yeah.
And obviously
Absolutely, me
that's
too.
been protracted a little bit by lockdowns and various restrictions. So we've been stuck in England for various points where we wouldn't have liked to have been stuck in England. But our objective is get in the van, drive to the sun, and then we spend all our time outside, even the nights and the evenings sitting outside.
It's fantastic as well, because we've got the sliding door. First thing in the morning, we open the sliding door, all the pets get clipped on their various leashes, and it's so nice because we can sit on our swiveled seats, and the outside is just sort of there. You can stretch out your arm and it's outside, and especially when you've parked and there's trees around, you feel like you're sitting inside, but you've got the comfort of your nice seat and you've got your table with your coffee on it. Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
Always outside.
One layout we've certainly I have loved is being able to just open the back doors, looking out to the sea and lay in bed.
Yeah.
You know, you often see these van life shots like that, right?
There's a reason for it.
It's the classic Insta, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Insta picture.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd change about the layout now that you've lived in it for 2 years?
We have actually changed a few things. The main thing that we've changed, we spent a long time organising this double bunk bed system, and the plan originally was we didn't have swivels fitted in the cab, so the only place we could sit is if you winch up the top bed. We've got boat winches, so the top bed goes up to the ceiling, the bottom bed's split into 2, all the cushions move, and you've got a nice little seating area there. We used that for 6 weeks and then realised just how awful it was having to winch the bed up and move all of the bedding and do all that and then put it all back again if you wanted to drive, or if people wanted to go to bed, and then the kids had nowhere private in the day. So yeah, we haven't used those winches since then, have we?
No, because I think we imagined what it would be like travelling. And it'd be like, right, so we need a sofa area, so we'll build this. So we spent ages designing the winch. It was quite an engineering feat to work it out. And then in reality, I think in the last year, we haven't, well, even longer, we haven't used it at all.
It's after those first 6 weeks, we just haven't used it.
So we changed that.
So we put in the double swivel. That was the thing that really made it, because now we have a seating area made up of, Rosie has 2 seats, and then we've got the double swivel, so there's 4 seats available for 3 people, and 1 usually on the other seat.
It makes a major difference swiveling them 2 round, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On the new van.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think I'd change anything about our layout.
No,
Has everything we
it's
need.
what it is really. I mean, it's a small space, so fitting all those people in, it's kind of like you're kind of limited to what you have. So we can't really create space.
No.
But that layout, I've seen the layout, and you've done great within the space you've got. So
Yeah,
that's well done.
Yeah.
How long did Phoenix travel with you? He doesn't know.
He was planning on coming with us for the first year as a gap between finishing high school and starting college. And he came with us for the first 6 weeks. which was summer holidays. And then during that time, although he enjoyed living the van life, I think he's contemplating getting his own van at some point in the future still. But he decided that he would actually rather go to college because he had a girlfriend and he had friends and all his friends were going to college. So that was what suited him. And he discussed it with us and made sure that we were still okay travelling while he went to college and vice versa. And it's worked out all right for us.
Yeah.
His girlfriend won out, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, fair play.
You can't beat a girlfriend.
Girlfriends over parents.
Yeah.
How did you pick your channel name, Those Weirdos? Why did you pick that? Because we think you're great.
It's got to be me.
It's got to be you that answered that.
We were pondering ideas and we looked at other people's Instagrams and so on, and a lot of people were sort of... It had to do with travelling and so on, and I thought, well, what if we want to do other things in our future? So as well as travelling, we want to... I mean, as it turns out, we're probably going to do videos about buying land and so on. So it's not just travelling. And then we had a lot of people, our friends and family, who when we said we wanted to live in a van, we got the kind of reaction that they thought we were a bit odd. So then I said, well, what if we called ourselves Those Weirdos? Because then we could be those vegan weirdos, those weirdos that run a nightclub, those weirdos that travel in a van, and it kind of spreads. You can use it for lots of different stuff. And it sticks in the brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Nobody forgets those weirdos, do they?
They don't.
And it's not derogatory either.
Not.
Weirdo is a compliment in my house.
You mentioned the nightclub.
Yes.
Tell me more about your nightclub.
It's
Is this a way that you generate an income on the road?
our club. We've run it for about 18 years now, and it is our bread and butter. Obviously, for the last year and a quarter, we haven't been able to run it because of the pandemic. But generally, it supported us for our whole first year of travelling. Generally, that's what brings in the money. I can run it remotely. I can run it from anywhere in the world because most of what I do to run it, booking performers and DJs and so on, I can do online anyway. So in true digital nomad style. We have so far, we would always travel in cycles. So we'd leave the UK, we'd go France, Spain, Portugal, and then 8 weeks later we'd be back in the UK visiting friends and family. We've got a small grandson, you've got other kids to see, Phoenix and so on. And we would time that so that we could run the club in London because we only run once every 2 months. So that's how it's worked so far.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky because one of the biggest questions people ask online if they're not in a van or a moho is how do you fund your travel? So obviously some people have savings or they rent out their house or whatever. And we were lucky because we both are self-employed, as I said earlier, but we could take our jobs with us.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have to make any change. So
No.
I was working online, so I could carry on doing that. You were primarily running the club. So
Yeah, I mean,
you
it
could still
was.
do that.
We were really well suited because as well as our jobs, obviously Rosie was also already home educated and had been for years. So for a lot of people, that's a hurdle, stopping them or making them pause before moving into a van and travelling. And we didn't have to worry about that because we were already there. I wonder why we didn't move into a van sooner, honestly. Looking back.
It's only because we hadn't discovered it. It might have been a long time
You'd not found
earlier.
that rabbit hole on
No,
Insta
absolutely.
yet.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly there home education. Now I know home education that you do with Rosie is very different to what we went through last year during the pandemic.
Yep.
Can you tell us all about it?
Well, I think the home education that you and a lot of other people were suddenly forced to do was more school at home or learning at home. It wasn't, you could class it as home education, I suppose. Then you've got home education that people who were choosing instead of choosing school for their kids.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to do that. One of which is, again, recreating school at home. People might buy workbooks, they'll follow a curriculum, they'll have classes, they'll have tutors. I tried to do that for Rosie. We pulled her out of school when she was 6. So we did that for about 6 months and realised that it wasn't working for the same reason school wasn't brilliant for Rosie. It was just too structured. And as soon as you start saying, you must do this, now it's time for maths, you get instant pushback because actually they'd rather be outside playing or doing something else. So we do what's called unschooling. We might call it radical unschooling because it comes away from schoolwork and learning work, educational things, because actually it follows a pattern of thought where everything is educational. Doesn't matter if she's playing Minecraft on a computer. It's not screen time. It's everything's learning. Everything's interest based. So whatever Rosie happens to be interested in, we facilitate by providing books or experiences or suggesting things that she might like to try in the same area. She came to me and said she wanted to learn Japanese. She was interested in Japanese culture. I found a couple of websites that she could learn Japanese from, and she tried them out and said actually they were no good, but she's all right because she's found her own thing now. So she's happily learning Japanese, which has led her to anime, and she's now drawing her own anime characters. And it just, any kind of subject that she's interested in, it follows that pattern. We're just there to provide and help, aren't we? A little bit of guidance.
Just child-led, isn't it?
Yeah.
Simple.
Wow.
Where did you first learn about that? Where did you do research on it?
I did tons.
I can imagine.
As soon as we got Rosie out, before we took Rosie out of school, I started reading John Holt books and John Taylor Gatto and Sandra Dodd. There's so many wonderful people out there, and they've written books and they've made websites and so on. The podcasts, they're all still ongoing. They've been going since the 70s. There's so much information that you can find, and the more I read, the more convinced I was that this was a radical but brilliant way of bringing up your kids. And I said radical unschooling is more than just schoolwork. It extends to other things like bedtimes and food and things like that. We removed all restrictions, and instead of then having this crazy wild child, we might have thought that we would have prior to trying it, it means that Rosie at the age of 12 is happily self-regulating. She eats very healthily out of choice, and sometimes she doesn't go to bed till 4 in the morning or 6 in the morning, but she then wakes up later the next day, and then if she needs to get up early for something, there's a program she wants to watch or friends she wants to go outside and play with, then she'll adjust that herself and go, well, I'd better go to bed early today. That's been amazing to see, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as you guys or us, you know. If you've got friends around, you decide to stay up late one night, then the next night you haven't got friends around, you're a bit tired, so you go to bed early, and you obviously regulate that yourself. It's the same logic. We've basically discovered that you don't need to direct a child to do certain things so that they learn it. You're better off taking away the direction, and the learning happens naturally. It happens anyway, despite what the parent does.
The controversial side for most people is how that translates into what happens immediately when Rosie leaves you. I'm just trying to think of how this might be perceived. Because she's ace. She's absolutely fantastic. She's so much fun and such good company.
Such energy.
Yeah. Questions out there would be, are you preparing her for a job, or are you preparing her for life as Rosie herself on her own? How do you see, because she's not going to have a bit of paper that she could be benchmarked against other. She's not going to be benchmarked anyway because that's Rosie. But as an outsider looking in, most people are looking and go, bloody hell, she's got no qualifications. How's she going to do anything? She's never going to conform to normal society. Which obviously
is a bonus.
Isn't what you want for Rosie.
It's a bonus.
How would you have that conversation with someone? Would you even bother, or would you?
No, there are lists on websites online where people have listed for these kinds of conversations the things that their grown unschoolers now do in life, and it's absolutely amazing. First of all, it's entirely possible, if Rosie decides to go to college, for her to be able to get into college without having any GCSEs. Or she could choose to sit GCSEs, and because she's chosen to sit them, say she decides next week that she actually really wants to become a doctor, surgeon. She wants to be a surgeon, and she's got heart set on it. We would show her what she would need. We'd have her look it up online, show her what qualifications she needs. And then because she's chosen it, she's much more likely to actually spend the time doing the learning and making sure she's taken it in, because she wants to pass and so on. So she can take those GCSEs. We would have to pay for her to sit the exams, unlike school children, but that's the only difference. There's also routes into college where you don't have to have taken GCSEs. Quite often they will give you some form of entrance test.
Yes.
And depending on how you do on that, you might also have to take a foundation course in maths or English or whatever it is that they decide. And then obviously university is possible as well, should she choose that. I can't imagine that she will, because long hours of sitting and writing don't appeal to Rosie at the moment, but that might change in time. So yeah, the list of what the grown unschoolers do with their lives is amazing. Some people are off volunteering or working with disadvantaged people. Other ones are doctors and nurses and have high-reaching qualifications. It spans.
I can imagine entrepreneurs, unschooled children can be fantastic entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
because they've just got that different way of thinking.
Well, Rosie's already got her own business, selling resin online, which again was entirely her own thing. Dom bought her sort of the resin making kit during lockdown just for something to do. Thought, hey, why don't you try this? Because she's very artistic, so anything artistic's going to go down well. And she tried it, made the things, and then we suggested she build a website, which you helped her with.
Yeah. And what's this website?
Well, she's actually decided after using the website for about 6 months, maybe 9 months, that it wasn't cost effective, because she was having to pay out so much of her profits into keeping the website going and paying for hosting and so on, but it was then a lot of work as well to try and drive traffic to her one-off website. It was lost in the massiveness of the internet, so she decided to start an Etsy. So her Etsy is Rose's Resin Jewellery, I believe. Perfect. And so she's gotten rid of the website now, and she keeps most of her profits.
I love that she's evolved that.
That's fantastic.
Entirely herself,
she's looked at her profit margins, worked out where she's leaking money.
At 12, I couldn't have done that at 12. I wouldn't have been bothered.
What was quite amazing was she was watching me work, because I had a shop. So I was doing all my online stuff through a provider online, which was Shopify. So she came to me and said, I could do that for my resin. How do you do that? So I very briefly said, well, I use this provider, which is Shopify, and that manages my inventory, it manages my sales, processes my cart, which sends me the money when the sale is cleared. You have a template, you build the template, you build your website. So she said, I could have that for my shop. So I said, yeah, you could do. So she said, well, show me how to set up a Shopify account with my domain name. So I did that, and then I said, you want me to help you with the building it? She said, no, I'll go on YouTube. So she went on YouTube, watched loads of tutorials, and about 3 weeks later she'd set up a Shopify, built her website, designed the template.
She asked for a little help with the you have to create your own legal terms and conditions and so on. She asked for a bit of help from me with that, so that she could get it right and comply with everything. It was amazing, wasn't it?
It was
stunning.
And then at the end of it, she had a fully formed website that she'd done all the artwork and done the template in the CSS of the website, changed all that.
She learned how to edit photos, so that she could take stock photos of her pieces and edit them so that they worked on the website. Yeah, it was mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, the power of unschooling.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to anybody who's looking at this for their own lifestyle?
Read. And digest and think, and then read some more. Just do a search for radical unschooling on the internet, and you will come across all the people that you need to know. I can give you a list of all of the best websites as well. I think my favourite is Living Joyfully, and it is about unschooling, but that is the basis of unschooling. It's to live joyfully. That's the purpose of life. And it's wonderful. So just read as much as you can. Maybe try and if meetups are going to start up again, then try and get to a meetup, because it was a little meetup that we went to that really sold us on the idea of unschooling and home education. And it was a question and answer session. So there are about 5 or 6 families who were already home educating and unschooling, and 5 or 6 families that were considering it. And we could ask anything and get their responses. And that, when we realised the kind of people that did it.
I'm a bit older than Missy, so I'm a little bit old-fashioned sometimes. So anything that changes what you've kind of learnt inherently as you grow up and become a parent, I find difficult to change. It's like, you can't take your kids out of school. What about their careers and how they're going to make money? All the kind of stuff that everyone would say. So when we went to this meeting, there were loads of kids there of all different ages. And the first thing that was amazing was they had a completely different way of conversing with adults. They weren't like kids. It was like they were like everybody else. So little kids, big kids. And we were talking to some of these kids of all different ages, and there was one girl who was just amazing. She had a fascination with Japan, so a bit like Rosie. So she started to learn Japanese, and I don't know how old she was, but when she was quite young,
I think she was 14.
14, yeah, she then flew to Japan
On her own.
And stayed with a Japanese family for a year, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, organised it all herself.
And then was fluent in Japanese at age 15. And could write in Japanese, and that was what motivated her. And then there was another little girl who had decided she wanted to learn the ukulele, so she was playing it at the meeting, and she was really good as well, like really talented. And you kind of think it's what Missy was saying, that if they're focused on what they want to attain, then they don't need to be told to sit down and learn that, because they're self-motivated. That's the biggest thing I think about unschooling, is self-motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And self-management.
And I think a lot of people that I've come across online who haven't done it yet say, self-motivation, that's the key, isn't it? You know, I can see Rosie's very self-motivated. I don't think my child would do that. I think they'd just rather play video games and eat junk food all day. And the thing is that has to also be okay. You have to really trust in the process and really relax and step back, because Rosie has done a lot of that. And when we first changed, well, I mean, she was only 6, but when we first changed from you going to school every day to you can do anything you want all day, she ate lots of junk food, and she sat and watched YouTube a lot, to the point where you're starting to get a little bit worried. But then it's a natural reaction. If you've had something that's been restricted for a long time, and then you're allowed complete access to it, you're going to take as much as you can in case the rules change again. You know, it might be restricted again soon. And
then when you realise that it's not restricted, then suddenly you naturally say to yourself, well, I don't need to do that all day long, because I can do it when I like. And then suddenly it doesn't feel as attractive because it's not controlled. So then you go, actually, I don't want to play games, I want to swim in a river, or whatever it might be.
Long-term plans, guys. I know you want to head down to Portugal. Tell us more. What's your long-term plans?
2 answers, really. So as we've gone on our van life journey, we've planned less and less. So we don't even plan hardly anything now.
Not really.
But the long-term plan is we've fallen in love with Portugal. We want to buy some land, not to actually live on it full-time, like we're moving out of the van, going to buy a house kind of objection, but somewhere that we can use as a base, maybe grow some food, maybe have a ruin that at a later date we can turn into a house when we feel like doing that.
The reason for it was Brexit, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because obviously with Brexit we can only stay in a Schengen zone for 90 out of every 180 days. So we've decided that instead of having to come back to England for every other 90 days, or maybe trying to get to Morocco, which would be fabulous, but with this constant changing of rules and travel restrictions and so on, we decided that we could get Portuguese citizenship, and then we would still be able to travel and spend half the year in Portugal and the other half the year anywhere in Europe, as opposed to just in England.
You fancy being. How did the last year impact on your plans?
Well, mixed really, because obviously the last year plus has been COVID restrictions. So we've kind of had both ends there. So at the beginning of lockdown we were stuck in the UK, so that affected us massively. We were stuck here for 3 or 4 months, and then when the first lockdown eased we ran off to Spain, and then there were various different versions of lockdowns in different places, so we were kind of stuck in Spain, but that was fine. And we spent 6 months in Spain, came back again, got stuck here again for the second UK lockdown.
I'll tell you what the big change to us was, or the biggest problem, was that because we had the pandemic and Brexit, and they both overlapped, because of Brexit, we didn't have our income from the club, so we had a very, very limited income, which then meant that as Brexit approached and we decided, actually, do you know what, Portugal's our place, let's go there, we then didn't have the money to go and buy land before Brexit happened. So now we're stuck in this citizenship visa thing. if the pandemic hadn't happened, we would have been able to get land before Brexit, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have had to worry about D7 visas or anything like that. That was a bit of a shame.
But this land, what are you going to do with this land? I mean, I understand you're going to hopefully allow others to stay. Are you going to share the land?
So we've got a bit of a vision. So we want somewhere fairly remote, kind of off-grid, preferably with a ruin, definitely with a river or a well or both.
Yeah.
Ideally with mixed land, so maybe some woodland, some arable, some beautiful rocky kind of thing. And then with the right restrictions, so we can maybe not open a campsite but have a kind of meet-up place where van lifers and other people travelling on the road can come and spend some time, sit around a fire when it's not in the summer.
We were talking about having little
events.
Yeah.
So an extension of our event management kind of business through the club, maybe have not festivals per se, but like small gatherings, maybe 100 people or less. Maybe have some bands, entertainers.
I'd like to do. I'd like to have a yoga instructor down and do a little mini van life yoga retreat.
Let's do that.
Juicing.
I don't need you. I'll
food.
just come.
I'm coming too. It sounds
workshops for kids,
right.
Unschooled, homeschooled families that are not homeschooled but they're on the road
I
for a
quite
period
fancy
of time.
running little art workshops for kids at weekends or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be.
Sounds like paradise.
It does,
Sounds
doesn't it?
fantastic. What a plan you have. Well, I mean, we wish you the best, and we're going to be joining you over there. So, let's hope you succeed and get your citizenship.
Thanks
I
very
know
much.
you're trying so hard about it.
So that you can come park up.
Absolutely, we're there.
We're doing it for you.
Just try and keep us away. Well, look, thank you so much for doing this with us, guys.
Pleasure.
It's been a great 48 hours.
Yeah, getting to know you. And of course, we're best friends now, right?
We
That's
are.
how it works.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Shh, Mandy, it's fine. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Not at all.
It's been fun.
And thank you for just being ace. It's
Yes.
been really enjoyable spending time
Last
with you.
night was fun, wasn't it, Steve?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And laughed at.
We were the last
we
one
just
standing.
had one beer.
Just the
didn't
one
we?
beer.
Just the
It was
one beer.
just the one
Just the
beer.
one
You're
beer. And little
absolutely
beers
right.
as well, wasn't it? Little beer.
Yeah, I'm not sure keg can
Well, it's just one keg of
constitutes-
beer.
Yeah. That's right.
So get all your subscribers to come and subscribe to our channel.
Well, of course, guys, why don't you show them some love and head over to the channel? Those Weirdos, head on over there and subscribe to those guys. There you go.
Thanks for having us.
Not at all. Guys, thanks so much for watching this. If you're not subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you later.
Bye.